The deep silence of space shattered as alarms blared through the Zaxuri patrol ship. Officer Kextol rushed to the scanning station, his 4 eyes widening at the readings. The energy signature was unlike anything in their database. Whatever it was big, powerful, and heading straight for their patrol route. Unknown vessel detected in Sector 7, Kextol announced, his voice trembling slightly. Energy readings suggest it might be a warship. The ship's commander, Vax Ren, moved swiftly to the main viewing screen. The vessel that appeared before them was sleek and angular, bearing none of the curved organic designs common to known spacefaring races. Its hull gleamed under the distant starlight, showing signs of heavy armor plating and what appeared to be weapon ports. Aboard the Earth naval ship Intrepid, Commander Lisa Martinez sat calmly in her captain's chair. After 6 months of deep space exploration, they had finally encountered an alien vessel. The first contact protocols were clear and well-rehearsed. "Status report," she ordered, her voice steady and clear. Lieutenant Daniel Wright worked his communications console with practiced ease. "The alien vessel appears to be a patrol ship, Commander. Size suggests a crew of 20 to 30. They're running active scans on us." "Open all frequencies," Martinez commanded. "Let's introduce ourselves properly." The bridge crew worked efficiently, their months of training showing in their smooth movements. The Intrepid's first contact package began broadcasting, a carefully crafted series of mathematical sequences, simple pictograms, and peaceful greetings in multiple formats. On the Zaxuri vessel, panic was setting in. The human ship's power signature was fluctuating in ways their sensors couldn't interpret. When the Intrepid's communication beam activated, the Zaxuri sensors registered it as an energy weapon powering up. "They're charging weapons," Kextol shouted, his tentacles writhing in distress. "The signal pattern matches no known communication protocols." Vax Ren faced a decision that would echo through history. The human vessel was 3 times their size, bristling with what they assumed were weapon systems, and now it was powering up unknown energy emitters. The safety of his crew came first. "Defensive positions," Vax Ren ordered. "Charge the pulse cannons. Send emergency alerts to all nearby sectors." Back on the Intrepid, Martinez leaned forward as her crew detected the energy spike from the alien vessel. Chief Engineer Kevin Morris spoke up from his station. "Commander, they're powering up some kind of energy weapon. Their shield configurations are shifting to combat status." Martinez kept her cool. This wasn't the first contact scenario they had hoped for, but they had practiced for it. "Keep broadcasting the peace signals. Power up defensive shields, but do not, I repeat, do not charge weapons. Let's show them we mean no harm." The situation balanced on a knife's edge. The Zaxuri ship's pulse cannons hummed with energy, while the Intrepid's shields shimmed into place, creating a soft blue glow around the human vessel. Then everything went wrong at once. A sudden solar flare from a nearby star caused a burst of interference. The Zaxuri sensors misinterpreted the Intrepid's shield harmonics as weapon locks. Kextol, young and nervous, saw readings he didn't understand and made a split-second decision. The pulse cannon fired. The bright energy beam struck the Intrepid's shields, causing the human vessel to rock slightly. On the bridge, Martinez gripped her chair's arms but remained seated. "Damage report," she called out. "Shields holding at 92%, Morris responded. "Minimal impact to systems." Martinez took a deep breath. Their first contact had just turned into first combat, but she wouldn't let it escalate further. "Continue broadcasting peace signals. Launch our emergency buoys. Let Earth know we've made contact. And someone get me Dr. Bennett from linguistics. We need to figure out where our signals went wrong." As both ships faced each other in the darkness of space, neither crew realized they were making history. The first human-alien encounter had turned hostile, but humanity's response would surprise everyone, especially the Zaxuri. The real challenge was just beginning. Admiral Christopher Baker stood at the window of his office on Earth Defense Force headquarters, staring at the distant stars. The emergency buoy from the ENS Intrepid had arrived an hour ago, and its contents had thrown the entire command center into chaos. "Play it again," he said quietly. The holographic display flickered to life, showing Commander Martinez's recorded message. Her face was calm despite the visible shaking of her ship under alien fire. "Earth Command, this is Commander Martinez of the Intrepid. We have made first contact with an alien vessel. Attempts at peaceful communication have failed. We are currently engaged in a defensive stance against what appears to be a patrol ship of unknown origin. Requesting immediate guidance. Sending all sensor data attached." Lieutenant Daniel Wright's intelligence report followed quickly after. He worked at his desk in the ship's data center, surrounded by screens filled with alien signals. "Sir, after analyzing their communications, we've discovered something disturbing. The aliens have been watching us for months. They've been picking up our entertainment broadcasts, movies, TV shows, even video games. But they think it's all real. They believe we're a species that does nothing but fight wars and solve problems with violence." Baker turned as Mary Collins, his senior diplomatic advisor, entered the office. She carried a tablet filled with preliminary analysis of the alien signals. "It gets worse," she said. "The translation team just decoded more of their emergency broadcasts. They call themselves the Zaxiri, and they're convinced we're an invasion force. They're calling for reinforcements from their entire defense fleet." Baker sat down heavily in his chair. Humanity's first contact with alien life was quickly turning into a potential war. But maybe there was still a chance to fix this. "What are our options?" he asked. Collins brought up a map of the sector. "We have 3 ships close enough to assist the Intrepid: the Defiant, the Valor, and the Guardian. Captain Andrew Peters can have them there in less than 2 days." "Sir," Wright's voice came through again. "I've been studying their broadcast patterns. The Zaxiri communicate differently than we do. They put huge emphasis on energy signatures and patterns. Maybe that's why our standard first contact package failed." In the command center below Baker's office, dozens of analysts worked frantically to process the flood of new information. Screens showed the positions of both human and Zaxiri ships, while others displayed the strange patterns of alien communications. Meanwhile, back on the Intrepid, Commander Martinez maintained her position. Her ship's superior shields had weathered several more nervous shots from the Zaxiri vessel, but she still refused to return fire. Every hour that passed without escalation was another hour for diplomacy to work. The Zaxiri High Command was equally busy, their war room filled with alarmed officials as more reports came in about the human vessel's capabilities. Its shields had barely registered their weapons. The humans had technology far beyond their expectations, yet they weren't attacking. This didn't match any of their behavioral predictions based on human broadcasts. "Send the alert to all sectors," the Zaxiri High Commander ordered. "All ships are to mobilize for defensive operations. If the humans are as warlike as their transmissions suggest, this is just the beginning." Back on Earth, Baker made his decision. "Send in the other ships," he told Collins, "but have them approach openly, with shields down. We need to show strength and restraint at the same time." He turned back to the window, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity's future hung in the balance. They had to find a way to prove that Earth's people were more than the Zaxiri's worst fears. The gathering storm was about to break. Mary Collins walked through the dimly lit halls of the Diplomatic Command Center, her footsteps echoing in the quiet space. 3 days had passed since first contact, and she hadn't slept for most of them. The screens around her showed the positions of the human ships moving into the sector, led by Captain Andrew Peters on the ENS Defiant. She stopped at her workstation and picked up a new report. The Zaxiri had finally responded to one of their transmission attempts, but not in the way they'd hoped. "The Zaxiri are broadcasting again," her assistant said, handing her a translation. "But they're calling it a warning, not a response." The message was simple: leave this sector or face destruction. The fact that they could now understand each other's words hadn't made things any better. In space, the ENS Defiant led its small group of ships toward the contact point. Captain Peters stood on his bridge, watching the stars streak by. His orders were clear: show strength, but avoid conflict at all costs. Contact in 10 minutes, his navigator announced. Sensors detect 5 Zaxxery vessels now in the area. Peters nodded slowly. Broadcast the new grading package that Dr. Bennett prepared. Let's see if her theory about energy patterns works better than standard communications. The Zaxxery ships formed a defensive line as the human vessels approached. Their scanners worked overtime, analyzing every detail of the newcomers. What they saw confused them deeply. High Commander, one of the Zaxxery officers reported, the human ships are approaching with their weapon ports closed and shields lowered. But our scans show they have enough firepower to destroy our entire fleet. This makes no sense according to their broadcast patterns. The High Commander stared at the tactical display. 4 human ships, each more powerful than anything in their fleet, were approaching in a peaceful formation. Everything they had learned from Earth's broadcasts suggested humans would attack first and ask questions later. This careful, diplomatic approach didn't match their analysis at all. Back on the Intrepid, Commander Martinez watched the new ships arrive. Her own vessel had maintained its position, shields raised but weapons cold, for 3 days straight. The crew was tired but determined. "Commander," Lieutenant Wright called out, "the Defiant is broadcasting Dr. Bennett's modified signal package. The energy patterns match some of the Zaxxery's own peaceful communication frequencies." For the first time in 3 days, something changed. The Zaxxery ships adjusted their positions slightly, their weapon signatures powering down just a fraction. On Earth, Collins watched the situation unfold through delayed transmissions. She had spent months studying peaceful first contact protocols, but nothing had prepared her for this. The Zaxxery seemed to operate on completely different logical patterns than humans. Their response to the new signals is promising, she told Admiral Baker over the comm. But we need something more, something that will prove we're not the warmongers they think we are. The answer came from an unexpected source. One of the Zaxxery ships suddenly reported engine troubles, its power core becoming unstable. The other alien vessels pulled back, clearly fearing an explosion. Captain Peters saw an opportunity. Against all protocols and the shouts of his bridge crew, he moved the Defiant closer to the damaged Zaxxery ship. "Broadcast in all languages and energy patterns," he ordered. "We're here to help. Let us prove it." The next few moments would either break the deadlock or start an interstellar war. As Peters watched the distance close between his ship and the troubled alien vessel, he could only hope they would understand what this offer of help really meant. Commander Jack Powell paced in his office at Earth Strategic Intelligence. The walls were covered with displays showing Zaxxery communication patterns and cultural analysis. 3 days of constant study had led to a breakthrough, but he worried it might be too late. "Send this to all ships immediately," he said to his staff. "The Zaxxery don't just communicate with words. They judge intentions through actions. Every aggressive species they've met has attacked them at first sight. They don't understand why we haven't." In space, the situation with the damaged Zaxxery ship grew worse. Its power core readings became more unstable with each passing minute. Captain Peters had moved the Defiant close enough to help, but the other Zaxxery ships still had their weapons aimed at his vessel. "Sir," his engineering chief called out, "I can see the problem. Their power core is overloading because of a containment field failure. We could fix it with our equipment." Peters nodded and opened a channel to the Zaxxery ships. "This is Captain Andrew Peters of the Earth Naval Ship Defiant. We can help repair your vessel. Please allow us to send over our engineering team." The Zaxxery High Commander watched the human ship hold its position near their damaged vessel. According to everything they knew about humans from their media broadcasts, this had to be a trick. Yet the scans showed the human ship was completely vulnerable, its shield still down. Lieutenant Susan Mitchell worked at her station on the Defiant, trying to modify their communication systems. "Captain, I found a way to match our shield harmonics to their communication frequencies. When we power up our shields to help them, they'll see it as a friendly signal. Peters made his decision. Power up shields, but only at 10%. Configure them to Lieutenant Mitchell's specifications. Prepare the engineering team for transport. The Defiant's shields shimmed into life with a soft blue glow. The Zaxiri ships tensed, but their sensors detected something strange. The shield harmonics matched an ancient Zaxiri pattern meaning protection of others. On the damaged ship, the Zaxiri crew watched in amazement as 5 human engineers transported aboard. They wore no weapons, carrying only tools and equipment. They moved quickly to the engine room, working alongside the scared Zaxiri engineers to stabilize the power core. The containment field is failing, one human engineer said, pointing to their diagnostic tools. We can reinforce it with our portable field generators. The Zaxiri engineers watched as the humans set up their equipment. Within minutes, the power core's warning signals began to quiet. The humans had just prevented a catastrophic explosion that would have destroyed the ship and its crew. Back on Earth, Powell received the updates with growing excitement. This is it, he told his team. The Zaxiri judge species by their actions in crisis. By helping their ship without asking anything in return, we're speaking their real language. On the Intrepid, Commander Martinez watched the rescue operation through her ship's sensors. After 3 days of tension, this could be the breakthrough they needed. She ordered her crew to prepare similar engineering teams, ready to help if needed. The Zaxiri High Commander faced a difficult truth. These humans had risked their own ship to save Zaxiri lives. None of their entertainment broadcasts had shown this side of humanity, the side that would help even potential enemies. As the human engineers finished their work and prepared to leave, one Zaxiri engineer stepped forward. In careful, newly translated English, he said the words that would change everything. Thank you. Perhaps we were wrong about humans. The first real bridge between the species had been built, not through words or threats, but through the simple act of helping others in need. The moment of peace didn't last long. Deep in Zaxiri space, a group of warships broke away from the main fleet. Their commanders refused to believe that humans could be trusted. They had watched too many human war movies, seen too many broadcasts of conflict. The humans are trying to trick us, Commander Vexlar told his crew. Once we lower our guards, they will strike. We must attack first to protect our people. 6 heavily armed Zaxiri battleships jumped into the sector where the human vessels waited. They powered up their weapons immediately, targeting all 4 Earth ships. On the Defiant, Captain Peters watched the new arrivals with growing concern. Get our engineers back from the damaged ship now, he ordered. His crew worked quickly to transport their people back. Commander Martinez on the Intrepid saw the danger too. All ships, defensive positions, she called out. But remember, weapons stay cold. We've come too far to ruin it now. The human ships formed a protective circle around the damaged Zaxiri vessel, their shields humming to life. Lieutenant Mitchell's modified shield harmonics made them glow with patterns that spelled peace in the Zaxiri energy language. You're making a mistake, the Zaxiri High Commander broadcast to the rebel ships. The humans just saved our people. They are not the enemies we thought they were. But Vexlar wouldn't listen. His ships opened fire, their energy weapons blazing across space. The human vessels took the hits on their shields, refusing to fire back. Chief Engineer Kevin Morris worked frantically at his station on the Intrepid. Commander, I figured something out about their weapons, he said. We can tune our shields to absorb their energy completely. They'll see that fighting is pointless. Martinez nodded. Do it. And broadcast the frequency to the other ships. The next wave of Zaxiri weapons fire hit the human shields and simply disappeared. The rebel commanders watched in shock as their most powerful weapons had no effect. Now they'll show their true nature, Vexlar said. Now they'll destroy us with their superior weapons. But the human ships still didn't fire back. Instead, they maintained their protective circle around the damaged Zaxiri ship. Their actions spoke louder than any words could. The Zaxuri High Commander saw his chance. "Look at them," he broadcast to all ships. "They have the power to destroy us, but they choose not to. Even now, they protect our damaged vessel. Are these the actions of the violent species we feared?" On Earth, Admiral Baker watched the situation through delayed feeds. "Send the order," he told Mary Collins. "All ships are to maintain defensive positions only. No matter what happens, we don't fire first." The rebel Zaxuri ships fired again and again, but they couldn't break through the modified human shields. With each failed attack, more of their crews began to question their commander's judgment. Finally, a junior officer on Vexlar's bridge spoke up. "Sir, if they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it many times by now. Maybe we should listen to what they're trying to tell us." The human ships continued their protective formation, their shields glowing with Zaxuri peace symbols. They had the power to end the fight at any moment, but they chose a harder path, proving their peaceful intentions through patience and restraint. Slowly, one by one, the rebel Zaxuri ships powered down their weapons. The humans had shown them something they never expected to see. A species more powerful than themselves choosing peace over victory. Dr. Alice Bennett sat in her lab aboard the Intrepid, surrounded by screens showing Zaxuri communication patterns. After weeks of study, she finally understood why their first contact had gone so wrong. "Commander Martinez," she called over the ship's comm, "I need to show you something important about the Zaxuri language." In the conference room, Bennett displayed a complex pattern of energy waves. "The Zaxuri don't just speak with words," she explained. "Their whole society is built on energy patterns. When we first appeared, our ship's power signature looked like a threat display in their language." Martinez studied the patterns carefully. "Can we change our ship's energy output to speak their language?" "We already are, in a way," Bennett said. "Those shield modifications Lieutenant Mitchell made. They're accidentally speaking perfect Zaxuri. Our protective formation around their damaged ship is saying more than words ever could." Across the sector, more Zaxuri ships arrived, but not for battle. They came to watch the humans, to study them. Every Zaxuri scientist and scholar wanted to understand these strange beings who had so much power but chose not to use it. On the bridge of his ship, the Zaxuri High Commander made a decision. He opened a channel to all vessels, human and Zaxuri alike. "For many cycles, we watched your broadcasts," he said. "We saw your wars, your conflicts, your weapons. We thought we knew what humans were. We were wrong. You are something we have never seen before, a species that carries both sword and shield, yet chooses to use the shield to protect others." Captain Peters on the Defiant smiled as he heard the translation. "Maybe that's because we've learned from our own history," he replied. "We know the cost of war. That's why we work so hard to maintain peace." In her lab, Dr. Bennett noticed something interesting in the Zaxuri commander's transmission. The energy pattern behind his words matched an ancient Zaxuri symbol for truth-seeking. They were finally ready to learn about humanity as they really were, not as their entertainment broadcasts portrayed them. The human engineers who had saved the damaged Zaxuri ship were invited aboard the Zaxuri command vessel. They found themselves surrounded by curious aliens who wanted to learn about human technology, human culture, and human values. "Your ships are built for war," one Zaxuri engineer said, "but your people are built for peace. How is this possible?" Chief Engineer Morris answered simply, "Because we believe the best way to prevent war is to be ready for it, while always working for peace. The strongest shield is the one you never have to use." The Zaxuri began sharing their own technology and knowledge. They were amazed when the humans showed as much interest in art and culture as in engines and weapons. Every hour brought new understanding between the species. Back on Earth, Admiral Baker received the reports with growing hope. Humanity's first contact had nearly become their first interstellar war, but patience and restraint had turned enemies into friends. Dr. Bennett worked through the night, creating a new first contact protocol based on what they had learned. Future human ships would modify their power signatures to speak peace in the Zaxxuri energy language from first sight. The universe is full of surprises, she wrote in her report. Sometimes the best way to prove you come in peace is to have the power for war and choose not to use it. The Zaxxuri understand that now, perhaps better than anyone. 1 month after first contact, the space around the initial meeting point looked very different. Where there had once been nervous warships pointing weapons at each other, now there were dozens of vessels from both species working together. The humans and Zaxxuri had set up a joint space station to serve as their first diplomatic outpost. Commander Lisa Martinez stood at the window of her quarters on the Intrepid, watching shuttles move between ships. Each one carried scientists, engineers, or diplomats eager to learn from each other. But not everyone was happy about the peace. "Commander," Lieutenant Wright called over the comm, "we're detecting multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They're not responding to any signals." A group of radical Zaxxuri ships appeared at the edge of the sector. These were the last holdouts, the ones who still believed humans were a threat. They had gathered every ship they could find for one final attack. "All ships, battle stations," Martinez ordered. "But remember the protocol. Defensive positions only." The radical fleet was larger than anyone expected. 20 warships moved toward the station, their weapons charged. Their leader broadcast a message to all ships in the sector. "The humans have tricked you all," he said. "They show peace to hide their true nature. We will save our people from their lies." But something unexpected happened. The Zaxxuri ships that had been working with the humans moved to defend the station. They formed up alongside the Earth vessels, their shields glowing with the same peaceful patterns that Lieutenant Mitchell had designed. The High Commander's voice rang out across all channels. "You call them deceivers, but look around you. They have shared their knowledge freely. They have helped us grow stronger. If you attack this station, you attack your own people." On the Defiant, Captain Peters watched the standoff with calm eyes. "Hold position," he ordered his crew. "Let them see what humanity and Zaxxuri can accomplish together." The radical ships launched their attack, but they found themselves facing not just human shields, but Zaxxuri vessels protecting their human allies. The combined fleet held its ground, absorbing the attack without firing back. Dr. Bennett worked quickly at her station, broadcasting a new kind of signal. She had combined human music with Zaxxuri energy patterns to create something beautiful, a symphony of peace that could be both heard and seen in the energy spectrum. The radical ships faltered as the strange new signal washed over them. Their crews watched in wonder as human and Zaxxuri ships moved in perfect harmony, their shield patterns dancing together like art in space. "This is what we can create together," Martinez broadcast to all ships. "Not war, not destruction, but something new, something better than either of us could make alone." One by one, the radical ships powered down their weapons. The last holdouts of fear and mistrust finally saw what everyone else had learned. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its weapons, but in its ability to turn enemies into friends. 2 days later, representatives from Earth and the Zaxxuri Confederation met on the new station. Commander Martinez and the High Commander signed what would become known as the Martinez-Zax Accord, establishing permanent peaceful relations between their peoples. "Let this be a lesson for all future first contacts," Martinez said at the signing. "True strength isn't about having the biggest weapons or the most powerful ships. It's about having the courage to offer peace, even when every instinct says to fight." The High Commander added his own words, "And let it be known that the humans taught us this. Sometimes the most powerful weapon of all is the one you choose not to use." As the Earth ships prepared to return home, they left behind more than just a diplomatic outpost. They had left a new understanding that would shape both species' futures. The day a human war vessel was detected in the sector had become the day that changed everything. Not through war, but through the harder path of peace.